Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Your voice sounds as rough as a gravel road.
This is my morning radio voice. Hey, top of the wire, back in 5 minutes, coming up to 9:15. Yeah, no, I'm still pretty rough, to be really, really honest with everybody, but here we are. Hey, I said to my partner today, this is a bad thing, because I'm really excited and happy to be here, happy to get onto it, but if I was working for someone, it'd probably be another sick day today. So, but we can jump in tonight, have some fun. It's going to. I'm in quite a slow recovery. Technically, I'm negative today, Chewy, so that's good. I'm COVID negative as of today, but I have a cough variant asthma, and often after just a cold or a flu or something, I have this cough and this thing that goes on for ages. So I've got these puffers that I use and things I stick up my nose, and yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So I am here. We are here. But what I've decided, because I know that this is going to be a little bit of a recovery for me, is that this week's going to be maybe like a three-quarter week for us. You know, don't expect the same number of clips coming out this week that normally come out, because normally I stay up until 12:30 doing clips, and then I'm back in the studio at 9 a.m. doing clips. I'm not going to do that this week. I'm going to go to bed straight after the show, and I'm going to get up when I wake up and do some clips. So we're all good, right? We're good. We're here. And the most important reason we're here is for the community around us, and the community's back, and you're back. And at any point, if I do this, Chewy, it means I have to go off and cough and hock up a lung or something, and you're going to have to take over. So there we go. So yeah, it's good to be back. How are you, mate?
I'm as I say just before we hit the go button, I'm a little bit low on gas tonight. I had a terrible night's sleep for some reason. No real reason for it. Just one of those nights I couldn't get to sleep until like 3. So I am out of puff. But while you were down with the plague, I was up in Wellington having a great time. So
nice.
I went to see the Menzingers play at San Fran in Wellington. That was on at the same time as they had the Wellington on a Plate food festival. So I ate way more burgers than a normal person should eat in 2 days. And coincidentally, I was there for a little bit of a protest at the local government conference that Luxon was at. So some friends of mine were like, we're going to go and stand up for Māori rights and the treaty and stuff like that. So I was like, that sounds like me. I will be there as well. So yeah, pretty much an absolute custom-made trip away in Wellington for me, which is much better than what you were doing.
Yeah, well, I guess I was doing the opposite, actually. I mean, I think I shared a couple of weeks ago that I've put on a couple of kilos. I kind of dropped like 60 kilos, and I put on like 8 or 9. And so I'm having to get back into it. I wanted to get back into it. And this week's given me a nice head start of dropping about 4 or 5 kilos, because I haven't been eating and I've been sweating bed sheets away. It's been fantastic. Good way to lose weight. Yeah, there you go. Get me on the back on that road. And of course, because I haven't eaten anything, when you don't eat anything for a long time, your stomach kind of shrinks, and you don't need as much to fill up. So, going to eat like a sparrow for the rest of the year, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so that is the exact opposite of my work.
So what I did do during the week, though, and we often do this on a Monday, I didn't really watch any movies, but that was a big break. My voice is breaking. I've also had puberty, apparently, in the last 7 days. As I also watched a couple of series. Finally watched Baby Reindeer. You've seen it yet?
Mate,
you seen it?
That was...
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the first run when everyone was raving about it. I waited for a little bit, but that is some, like, I don't want to give anything away for anybody that hasn't watched it, but that is some hard watching.
We did that in 2 days. Like, we actually were watching The Gentleman, the Gentleman series on Netflix as well. I like the movie The Gentleman; it's great. And so we started watching The Gentleman series, and got to about Saturday, and I've had Baby Reindeer in my watch list for a long time, and actually my partner put it on. And I was like, I've been meaning to watch this, and so we started watching, finished it by Sunday. All done. Did the whole thing, did all of them. It was amazing. And because they're only like 30-35 minute episodes as well, so it's quite easy to get through.
Yeah. Claire and I couldn't do it. There were episodes like we watched 2 in a row, and then we go, I can't do it. I can't watch any more of this. We'll come back to it in a couple of days after I've had a big old think about it.
Yeah. No, it's a very good series. And there's a little bit of controversy around it, that some of the facts aren't actually true that's in the series, and they claim for it to be a true story. Like the subject matter of it, the female main character, they haven't found evidence yet of her having gone to jail, yet they claim she was for jail for 4.5 years. Some bits and bobs, of course, because me, Chewy, then I went down the rabbit hole, and every YouTube clip, because the woman, the character, the female character, the main character, she outed herself to the media who it was based on, and then Piers Morgan and did a conversation with him. So went and watched all of that, and then went and watched a whole bunch of it. It was fascinating, actually, really, really fascinating. So yeah, so I've been watching and sleeping and sweating the last week away in my week. So, but I tell you what, Whanau, and we did signal it, and I can see that we've got good numbers for the start of the show. We often get this many towards the end of the show. The start of the show, you guys have obviously jumped in. It's good to see you here. It's become evident to, I think, both of us, Chewy, but because I was still keeping a very close eye on the emails and stuff, that it sounds really stupid, because I know we always say this, but we've got this community around us, right? And we've always said that we've got this community around us. But it wasn't until me and Chewy went away that I've kind of realized finally about the community we've got around us. And not just that we do this for fun and, yada, 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 but the need that there is for what we do. And this is not a slap on the back for us, all right? It really genuinely isn't. But what we do is important. And what we do, there's a need for, and I think that's why. I mean, people see us with nearly 300 patrons, right, Chewy? And they're like, "Holy crap!" Like, I think that's when I stop and take a step back, and I'm able to look at things like from sitting in the stands rather than being in the game. I'm like, "Oh yeah, these things started to make sense." And so one of the things it's almost an apology, but I'm really sorry we weren't here for the week, and I'm really sorry that we didn't have an outlet for you guys who are a part of this when we haven't been here for a week. Chewy and I have said, I don't know how many times, Chewy, if I was walking down to the shop and I fell over and broke my leg and I was in hospital for 4 days, what do we do? But we've never actually answered that question, and then that's just happened. Like, it just circumstantially happened that, Chewy was in Wellington for 2 or 3 of those nights, and I was obviously incapable of speaking sense, and it wasn't going to happen. So what I think we've come to is, we've had various times in this, by the way, welcome to the family meeting. This is what we're doing right now. We've had various moments in this thing that we're doing where we've kind of made the next step and made the next step and made the next step. And I think the week off has shown us that it's time for us to take the next step. And the next step is actually expansion, because we need more people around us, not just community who are supporters, who are our advocates, but we need more people around us who are involved in what we do. Now, I'm going to propose that we start up a Friday night show, and we get a couple of other people to do the Friday night show. A couple of young upstarts, a couple of young Marxists and communists out there, a couple of young rabble-rousers to come along and potentially start up a Friday night edition. So then the general rule would still be, me and Chewy, Monday to Thursday rule. But then when Chewy's got a gig, and it's not that we don't love our regular contributors, like Clinton, like Bomber, they come along and they help us out, and we love them. We always want to have them on board. But it feels to me that we need to have a crew that we can actually go, oh, guys, you know what? In summer, me and Chewy are taking January off, and we'll do 2 weeks of pre-records, and then person A and person B, you can do the first 2 weeks we're back. That's what it kind of feels like. Now, I don't know what that looks like. We are going to need at some stage to do it properly more income, which we'll talk about later on. I'm not pitching for that right now. But what we want to say is if you are someone who thinks you've got the skills to do this. Now, I don't know if you've ever done this, Chewy. Well, you probably have when you're working in managerial, but you put out for a CV. I'm just going to cut real to the chase, yeah? Put out for a CV and you get in a bunch of people writing back to you and they're just really not able to do the job. I'm not trying to put anyone down or put anyone in a basket here, but I've done this before. I've kind of like, there's a media thing here and you do need some experience. It'll be good for you to be able to X, Y, Z, let me know. And you get responses from people who are just like, oh, I'll give this a go. And yeah, I'll give this a go can work, but it would be really good to find someone who's got a little bit of understanding of sort of communicating publicly. It doesn't mean you've done radio, it doesn't mean you've done broadcasting, but those kinds of things. And the reality is someone who has experience in editing, like what I do, possibly even Photoshop, which is what I do. So we can actually hand Friday night to a couple of people. I mean, it could be 3 people. It doesn't really matter. There's no set formula here. And go, there you go. It's yours. You'll upload the clips on Saturday and you can be the weekend crew, so to speak. One of the reasons this works so well with me and Chewy is because we're mates. And I don't know where you are in the country right now, but I always think about radio teams. The best radio teams in the world have always been really good mates. Whether it was Polly and Grant, who were husband and wife on ZM whilst they were, whether it was Nick and Rog on The Rock, who were best mates, whether it was Kim and Corbin in Auckland, who were best mates, Cy and Gary, they're always, what makes a really good team is relationship. And we struck it lucky, I guess, a bit, Chewy, because we weren't mates when we started this thing off. We just went, let's give this a go. And that has grown. So it doesn't mean you have to be mates to start off with, but, being able to get on with the person you're teaming up with is a really, really good way of putting content out there, which is not only informing, but also entertaining. So I think because we do this also online like this, smashing it nicely, because we also do this online like this, all you need is a computer and a screen, computer and a camera, and every laptop's got them. We might put a bit of money into some things for some people and get some, nicer mics out to them or something like that. It might all happen. I don't know. But that's where I've come to in the last week, that we need to not disappear on you when our lives get turned upside down. That's actually not fair. And I think because we're the only ones doing this quite how we're doing it in this part of the political spectrum, it needs to be here. Is that fair, Chewy? Is there anything you want to add to that part of the conversation?
Yeah, sort of around that sort of aspect, I guess, is certainly when we said, hey, look, this week we're probably going to take a knee. I'm up in Wellington, you're dying. See, actively dying. A lot of people had a lot of concern and best wishes and all of that sort of stuff. There were a lot of people that were like, oh, Joey, you can just do it. I just really want to highlight the amount of work that Pat does for this. It is, I mean, you see us here on screen very equally divided and all of that sort of thing. And Pat is very generous towards my contribution here. Pat does like 90% of the work. So that's more realistic. Pat does most of the work. I work full time as well. Pat is constantly chasing down the stories, the guests, the cutting up of clips. It's an enormous amount of work that Pat does. And yes, I could probably do a little bit more heavy lifting, and we've been talking about that. But it is unequal. I turn up literally 5-2, 10-2, and react to whatever Pat puts on my plate in front of me. And look, that can be what it is, I saw someone in the chat there going, oh yeah, my friends and relatives are sick of me talking about politics. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's that's what we're talking about. That this is my outlet rather than badgering all of my friends and relatives about
let
what's
me
going on.
your partner said to us the other night, I don't know if you know that me and her had this conversation, but she said to me, Chewy's always done this, eh? And she goes, he's normally just doing it with a beer in his hand at the pub, but he's always done this. And I'm like, yeah, so that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So that ability to talk to people, you might not be talking to a table full of people or mates at a bar. You're just doing it over microphone. That's kind of what it all is all about. So if you think that that's you, then we could have something really interesting for you.
Yeah, and we don't know where it's going to end. I mean, like in this ideal world, I mean, seeing we're having a family meeting, only people who are watching are our family. As me and Chewy would love to do this full time. I mean, that would be a dream. So that probably rolls us into stage 2, or what we're talking about for our expansion, for our world domination, and that is advertising. And I've talked to you about this, guys, maybe once before, but I'm hitting this real hard over the next wee while. I've made contact with a couple of companies, and we're going to do a bit of a trial run. There's a thing in New Zealand that podcasting in New Zealand does not do advertising, in my opinion, correctly. They basically follow a mainstream media model of finances. They don't follow a podcasting model. So if you guys, and I know you will watch or listen to podcasts offshore, whether it's it's actually, it wouldn't be Brian Tyler Cohen because he doesn't do it, a David Packman or this kind of person, you can see how they monetize. Host read adverts, they're embedded into the show, they're always there, they never go away. That's the model. In New Zealand, what they do is they sell advertising and it changes out because they have a model at both NZME and MediaWorks where they can change the advertising. I really don't think it's a good idea. So I've got a few contacts with a few businesses who are keen to come on board and give it a go. Now, straight up, probably no money in that for us, but what we need to do is we need to test the model, and we will test the model and we will then get the data from that test. We will then be able to use that to move on to find some advertisers. So we're sort of in that sort of place right now. So I know I've done this once before to you guys, and it didn't really grow into anything. But if you know of someone, or you are someone who is an advertiser who already has a function, because the way this works best is for a business to have a functioning and well-used e-commerce site. Because even if you've got the best shop in Hamilton and you sell the best product, best widgets to Hamiltonians, we're nationwide. So if you are someone, or you know someone has a really good e-commerce site that would like their product or services possibly sent to the whole of the country, then let us know. And I'd be frank again, to stop wasting anybody's time, already functioning, already up and running, already going, looking for a diversification in their advertising spend. Not that there'll be much of a spend to start with because we're in a testing phase. Just putting that out there. And the third thing I think, Chewy, is if you are someone, and this is a third person we're looking for. If you are someone of the journalistic bent, you are someone who writes, has written, does write, we do want to now start up the written word component of this show. So the written word component of the show at the start will probably be a Substack or a blog or something like that. And at the very least, we'll probably want somebody who has A, the skill, but B, the time, because I don't, to be able to take. So we had Chloe on last night as an example. We weren't here last night, but you know what I'm saying. And so then the next day there's a 25-minute interview. And like every other media company, that 25-minute interview gets written up into a 500-word article, and then the interview embedded into it. We want someone who wants to be involved. And again, and this is said with the greatest of respect to people who don't have the skill set, but someone who has done this or who can do this, someone who knows how to write press releases, someone who knows how to write an article, someone who knows how to take an interview and take the salient points from it and do it. If that person's out there, or people are out there, we want to hear from you. And then once we start that Substack, who knows where that could go? It may not be a Substack, by the way. I'm just using that as place marker X. Maybe we'll do more writing on it. Maybe I'll get back to doing some writing. Maybe we'll get guest writers on there and stuff as well. That could start to grow as well. See, what we've done through this period is, when we started this off, it was me and Chewy doing this. And then I don't know how far through we started doing it, but we brought in audio podcast at some stage. We brought in the Facebook page at some stage. We've kind of added things on as we've gone along. This is the next stage. And like I said, this kind of really comes from an apology that I'm sorry that we weren't here last week, because I realized last week, whilst we weren't here, that this is something that needs to be here and bigger than just me and Chewy being available. I think me and Chewy need to give this product more respect. Say it's more than just us fucking around on the internet 4 nights a week. It needs to be something that's here, and for it to move to the next stage, we're putting some feelers out.
Yeah. And I mean, the only other time that we've really stepped away from this for a bit was over summer, Christmas, and that still had an enormous amount of prep done, because you put together like a big list of scheduled best of shows and clips and all of that sort of stuff. This has been the first time in a long time that there just was not BHN content coming out. Yeah. And if it wasn't for that weird video that is just doing some huge numbers for us.
Yeah, just pause for a sec. We still had 65,000 views last week on YouTube, even though we did nothing.
Off one particular video that is just puzzling to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it wasn't for that, we'd be doing nothing. So yeah, just again, thanks guys for all the well wishes and you being involved and giving a shit about this, and coming back after we disappear for a week.
All right, that's that done. Just to show you, team, I don't know what happened, but a few weeks ago, me and Chewy did a bit on Brian Tyler Cohen going on Piers Morgan, and we did that. And actually, I stuffed up this clip because I started talking about it here. Look, you can see these peaks and valleys. What they mean is that's where is the most replayed. So this big long clip here is just us meandering and rambling about nothing at all. So I actually made it longer than it should be. That's currently on 95,000 views, Chewy. I don't know where it went or how it went there or whatever, but this video on us talking about Piers Morgan shouldn't have brought on Brian Tyler Cohen has getting close to 100,000 views. Our biggest video before that was about 25,000, and that's jumped to 95,000, which does lead me to one more thing. Let me have a look. Chewy, do some super chats and stuff, and I'll look for my last thing I want to talk about.
Cool. Let's have a look at what we've got. Mr. Arves with $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Husky and Chewy. Maybe I need to change that. Mr. Alex with the $10 super chat, just wanting to ask for Pat and Chewy's opinion, and if they are aware that there is an article on Stuff Today on the use of AI or Chat GPT for job interviews, and will it cause issues down the road? Yes, I had seen that article. I haven't had much of a chance to dip into it. Look, I can just sort of relate how much my manager goes through CVs and how much it makes him want to put his head through the desk sometimes. I can imagine people just feeding those into ChatGPT looking for what they're after. Will it deliver good results for people? I don't know. $2 super chat from Peter. I'm really enjoying the new Batman cartoon on Prime.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that. That is good news to me. Bill B with $5. More support for your great work. Dave Motzer just with a comment exactly what I was talking about. My family keeps telling me I should start a podcast. They are sick of hearing me talk about politics. I would be very keen. We look forward to hearing.
Well, we haven't actually said this yet, but I know this Kiwi Skirt's been doing it. Thank you, Kiwi Skirt. Just bighearingnews@gmail.com. Just email us. We'll go from there.
And $2 super chat from Sharon. Definitely, you guys can't do everything. Absolutely. If you've seen me try to dance, that is very clear.
Are you ready? Are you going? Yep.
Ruru, $10 super chat. Welcome back, Pat and Chewy. Wishing you a speedy recovery. Looking forward to some critical commentary.
Cool, man. Here's the last thing. That video that we talked about, Brian Tyler Cohen and stuff, that's got us to a point, and we said this the other day in a jestful way about getting to 10,000 subs by the end of this month. Well, there you go.
Oh, it's so close.
Yeah.
So close.
So this is an official call out. That video that's had 100,000 views has added 500 subscribers. I didn't know how this YouTube thing worked, Joey. Apparently you can make a video, heaps of people watch it, and then heaps of people subscribe. Go figure. That's not how that works. So we're 135 people away from 10,000, and we've got about 5 days less in the month. I'm just putting it out there. If you're someone who lingers, if you're listening to this as a clip, or you're watching it on demand or whatever, and you haven't subscribed yet, beautiful time to get subscribed now. See if at the end of August we can make it to 10,000, because we're only 135 away from 10,000. And you can see where this video was picked up on. Sure, look at that straight away. Whoever that was, bless you. You guess where it's picked up? Right about
doing
there,
it live
about the 4th of August, and just went. So yeah, you can see the you can see where that video was picked up on just a little bit, you know. So yep, that's it, team. I think that's it for us, isn't we? We talked about everything. Sorry, no, I've got my kind of sexy husky voice on. I was telling my kids about one of the another one there. I was telling one of my kids about the Phoebe episode where all of a sudden she can sing because she gets a cold. Remember that episode from Friends? And she can sing, and then she gets well and she can't sing anymore, so she goes around everyone trying to breathe in their cold germs to try and get her voice back. Fantastic. All right, now one other thing, I noticed you were talking about some of the things that were happening in the news, Chewy. I did not see much of the news last week. I just didn't. I saw a few things going across my thing. I actually went into, when I did see something on Twitter, I just kind of bookmark. So I've probably got about 20 bookmarks in Twitter to come back to from the last week. So there's not a lot that I've looked at. I did notice this today that the fast track legislation, that ministers aren't going to have the final say. So that's a win, right? That's a win for public pressure. So brilliant. You know, when we get told by people like Chloe not to evoke her name twice in one show, but when we do, our numbers go up. So, you know, what are you going to do? You know, to organize that, there's a perfectly good example of it. That's a win. So well done. And there's other things as well. There was, sorry, you go to.
Oh, I was going to say, with that, just to point, this might be very obvious to a lot of you, but just to point it out, the government hopes that backpedal on that particular issue is going to be enough to make everybody get off their case.
Yeah.
It is still an absolutely dreadful piece of legislation that needs to be strangled to death in its crib. So, yeah. They might be just giving away something that they're quite happy to give away in the first place. Yeah. Keep up the pressure.
Yeah. So, and I saw quite a lot going around by various activists and journalists as well about links to the tobacco industry and other names within government, not just the big ones we hear about. And I saw a stand up somewhere with someone saying that, and I haven't read the article yet, so I don't know about it, but Nicola Willis's name is attached somewhere and somehow and stuff as well. So I will start to look at that kind of stuff from tomorrow. I've been in the studio for 20 minutes, half hour today. That's it. So I'm not completely up to date with all sorts of things, like the outro trailer's not up to date. It'll be up to date from tomorrow. But yeah, so there's lots going on that we haven't seen. And look, always feel free to, I like it when people send us messages. Have you looked at this? Have you seen this? So yeah, cool. That's a great way to get ideas. In fact, I remember various websites and blogs and stuff having tips email addresses, tips at. Maybe we'll do that one day. Tips at. You can just send us stories at or something like that.
I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about. You know, there's DNC, there's Nicola Willis.
Finally, I did write that down. Oh my God.
The blowout that DNC was actually the port, don't you know?
Yeah, that DNC was brilliant. It was so good. And just watching Trump in real time melt down, oh my gosh, that was so much. And look, I'll say this, I did actually write that down. You can see up there by where it says baby reindeer and stuff. It does say DNC up there. I was going to mention that. The truth with Donald Trump after that assassination attempt is it was like he had an open goal and the ball about 5 meters from the goal, and all he needed to do was the side of his foot gently tap it in, and he's the president. And he fucking missed the shot. It's almost I mean, honestly, it's almost how did he do it? And then the DNC has buried him, man. And now I mean, you don't ever want to play that game, but it feels like it's almost Kamala's to lose now. It feels like it's completely flipped the other way. Whole bunch of panels being done of undecided voters. and before the DNC, and then bringing them back after the DNC, like 80% of them saying they're going to vote for DNC for Kamala. It just seems like it could be a trouncing. Lots of Republicans now starting to make noises about Trump losing. And I really do hope that they make noises about Trump losing. Then if he loses, they're the loudest voice to say it's fair, he lost, it's over, rather than that bullshit, MAGA stuff they did last time.
This is the Republican Party's chance to shake off MAGA and actually put them to bed. I think, I saw a story today that said Republican advisors are worried because all Trump is doing is playing golf and sulking. There's not really a plan.
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do. And I think this is the thing, is when we talk about people that are in the middle, that are undecided, or maybe in the more moderate part of the Republican Party, that they have a choice between a traditional politician with not a lot of baggage that just seems to be sane, and Trump, and that's their choice. Trump has by all accounts got rid of JD Vance now in favor of RFK. So he's just leaning into the crazy. There is
like not officially though. You're not saying that officially.
Not it hasn't been announced officially, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changes in the next couple of days.
There was a really interesting panel, and I haven't seen the whole show, and I know he's got his detractors. I'm one of them in some areas, but with Bill Maher and this guy James Carville, who was about 147 years old from the looks of things, and he was talking to this dude here. He was talking to
hello,
Dan
fellow
Crenshaw.
kids.
Yeah, Dan Crenshaw, who was a Republican politician and commentator and yada yada yada, and he basically remember him when they mocked him on SNL and he got all hurl clutchy. And if I had a thought about it, I would have clued it up. And he basically, James Carville, who was a Democratic strategist and was back with Clinton and the stuff, he looks at him and says something like, if Trump doesn't get out of the way, you're fucked. And since then, it's been like, this could be the end of the Republican Party if you guys don't figure this out properly. Like, if you don't figure this out properly with a win or with a gracious loss, you could be done. You could be done completely and utterly. So it's fascinating to watch. Sorry.
But I think, are we going to talk about a main topic
tonight?
Yeah,
we should probably. We've got a couple of things to get to, which let's get to now, shall we? Because of all of that, we're actually going to go back a full week because I thought it was important for us to cover off Nicole McKee on Q&A. So we're going to look at that. And then funnily enough, just because it's appropriate, we're also going to have a look at Q&A from yesterday. So this is like the kudos to Q&A show is what this one's all about. And I've got a couple of clips. I think Nicole McKee feels more important than Simeon Brown, just in life, but as apart from what they're talking about as well, because she is an interesting cat. And she's talking to, let's just rip in, shall we? She's talking to our old mate about the links between legislation she supports and Brendan Tarrant. And these are two fairly long clips. They're about 5 or 6 minutes each, but they're worth it. And at the end of the clip, she actually, without blatantly and obviously saying it, moves the goalposts to all of a sudden. The result of moving the goalposts actually brings into it that she admits to what Jack Tame is saying. I'll show you as we go through.
So back in 2017, a bipartisan select committee with National and Labour MPs looked at gun laws in New Zealand, and they identified what they considered to be a significant and concerning loophole. The loophole essentially allowed someone on a Category A gun licence, the most basic level gun licence, to buy a gun and then to separately buy components like a high-capacity magazine that would turn that gun into what was then known as a military-style semi-automatic or an assault rifle. After they made the recommendations to close that loophole, you lobbied the government, asking them not to change that loophole. The government took your advice. They rejected the Select Committee's recommendations. 2 years later, Brendan Tarrant took advantage of that very loophole that was identified by the Select Committee, the one that you lobbied to keep, and he killed 51 people. So why should I believe that you will keep the rest of New Zealand public safe?
Because everything that you just said there is actually wrong. Since 2012, I've been part.
It's really interesting to watch this. There is a shell game here that goes on about weapons and magazines and high capacity magazines and weapons. And it's a little bit like there's some, no, this time we're talking about this. No, this time we're talking about this. Oh, no, this time we're talking about weapons. Oh, no, you're wrong. We're talking about magazines here. No, but the magazine can't be in the weapon. It's, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like A-class lobbying. Sounds like
100%.
A-class, I know how to talk around this issue and never actually acknowledge anything. That's what it sounds like.
Part of a group that has actually been asking New Zealand Police to make sure that high capacity magazines were not available to people with standard licenses. Right up until March the 14th, 2019, I sat in a meeting where we again advocated for that to be tightened. When we talk about the 2017 inquiry, that was an inquiry into the illegal possession of firearms by criminals. And that particular loophole itself was something that we wanted to support and said needed to be tidied up. And I had been advocating for 7 years for that to be tidied up. We were told by New Zealand Police that it couldn't happen because the horse had already bolted.
Right. So you say that when you lobbied the minister at the time, that you argued to close that loophole?
Definitely.
Okay,
and
so
I have
why
been
did you release
arguing
this video?
since 2012.
Shortly after you lobbied the minister, you made a post on the Colfo Facebook page. We've got a video of it here. Here's what you had to say.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole McKee and I really, really like guns. Wanted to give you a bit of an update about a meeting that Jeff Thomas and I had with the Minister of Police, Paula Bennett, this afternoon. So just wanted to let you know that a lot of the concerns on some of those really controversial recommendations are likely to be gone. So we just can stay calm on those ones.
Now, you were 100% right on that, of course, because shortly after the minister announced that she would be rejecting the Select Committee's advice, on the Colfo Facebook page, once again, quote, the minister's
They said that very quickly. Shortly after the minister decided she would reject the advice. National Party. Anything sounds familiar there, Chewy? Reject the advice.
Absolutely. Don't need advice. Advice is just there so the lobby groups can decide what they don't want.
And whether you can or can't link lobbyists to the decision that National went with, either way, they went with it. So, okay, so what? They didn't take the advice of the lobbyists? No, they just happened to do exactly what they wanted. But again, the previous John Key national government advice rejected when it comes to guns.
Independent advisors, that's you, are pleased that the minister has rejected 12 recommendations. Their advice was to reject a couple more than the 12.
Yeah, that's right.
So you lobbied the minister to maintain that loophole.
I advised the minister. So there's a difference between being a lobbyist being brought in.
See the shell game there? No. Advised. Not lobbied. So no, not lobbied, not advised. Suggested. Hang on. Chewy, thesaurus. Lobbied, advised, suggested. Challenged. Thought wouldn't be a good idea.
The time.
But be totally clear with us. Did you support the recommendation when you spoke with the minister? And to your point, the minister, after receiving the Select Committee recommendations, sought independent advice and appointed you as a gun lobby spokesperson to provide that independent advice. That's what happened, right?
She did not appoint me as a gun lobbyist. She appointed me as an independent contractor to New Zealand Police, delivering firearm safety education on their behalf.
And so when you provided the minister with that advice, did you advise the minister to scrap that recommendation?
I advised the minister that they needed to put high-capacity magazines.
That's not the question. Sorry, the question is, did you advise the minister to reject that recommendation?
No. There was no recommendation specifically around high-capacity magazines.
No. Oh, you've read the Select Committee report. I'll read you the recommendation. Quote, we recommend to the government that the police investigate the creation of a category of restricted semi-automatic firearm to replace the MSSA firearm endorsement category.
Okay, that's not high-capacity magazines though, Jack, and I think that's where the confusion is. So we already have...
So again, I've got the Select Committee report here. So they talk about, here in particular, the way MSSAs are currently classified raises 3 grounds for concern. First ground for concern, A category firearms can be converted to MSSAs by people purchasing high-capacity magazines and using them on their Category A firearm. So very clearly, they came with that recommendation. We recommend to the government the police investigate the creation of a category of restricted semi-automatic firearm. If that category had been created, do you accept that Brenton Tarrant might not have been able to access the guns he used on March 15th?
Brenton Tarrant would have been able to access the firearms. Brenton Tarrant should not have been able to access the high-capacity magazine. And I will go back to the 7 years of advocacy on the magazines themselves. That recommendation is about the firearms. We're talking about the magazines.
So under that recommendation, just going, I've got all the paper.
And read the recommendation
committee options.
So this is the bit where there's a slight, she changes the goalposts here, and in changing the goalposts, even though she doesn't say it, she acknowledges that Jack's right. You have a listen. This has only got 30 seconds to go.
About the magazines.
So under that recommendation, just going, I've got all the paper.
And read the recommendation
committee
again.
options. Okay, restricting all firearms with detachable magazines.
Restricting all firearms with detachable magazines.
That's one of the recommendations.
Not about the magazines themselves.
It's restricting all firearms with detachable magazines.
And it's how do you go about doing that? Because the majority of firearms in New Zealand
we've done it since March 19th, right? We've said you actually you're not able to purchase those high-capacity magazines.
And we're in a bit of a mess in the way that they've gone about doing it, Jack.
There you go. Goalpost shift. So yes, Jack just said we've done it, and she said yes, we have done it, but there's been a mess up. In other words, what I was just saying you couldn't do, we've done. Goalpost shift, and isn't it terrible?
It is absolutely standard to what the NRA and their lobbyists have done in the US. Is they won't make common sense rules around these because they will focus on say the pistol grips, right? So, so when you see like there's a weird little strap of material that joins the buttstock to the pistol grip, so it's a single piece. It's not a pistol grip at that point. The gun lobby is and the gun manufacturers are excellent at adapting their products to changes in the law. And the best way for them to be able to do that is when the lobbyists come in and they start fiddling around what is a pistol grip, what is a collapsible stock, what is a high-capacity magazine. And they'll quibble and they'll move those pieces around, and it just muddies the water over what's happening. And then you get the gun lobby or the gun manufacturers adapting their products to fit that. The one thing that they can't adapt their products for is something that is a lot more open, like so magazines are the problem. Let's ban all weapons with a detachable magazine.
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of gun owners and the vast majority of the non-gun owning public can understand that. That's easy to enforce. Who has a problem with it? The gun sellers, the gun manufacturers, because they know how open that is, how clear that is to understand, and how effective that would be.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep trucking because there's another bit here. And as I said, I think that listening to Nicole McKee, to me, it feels like it's more important than Simeon. Simeon's important, but this is literal life and death on some of it. That's how it feels to me. So this second part, she's challenged about excluding the police from the communication. Remember how we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, how that she wanted the police suggestion or police association suggestion stricken off the record sort of thing. And she's going to go and play the game. Oh, I just didn't understand the system. I've learned whatever. And also a very good bit about gun registry and the huge hole in the gun registry conversation, which is if you're worried about it being a steal to order thing, why are you happy with having any registry at all? Because that would surely still be a steal to order list. And it's just like, oh, it's great. Jack does great here. Let's have a listen.
You excluded the police association from the first part of consultation on that first little sliver of gun reforms because you said that advice of police was sufficient. But documents obtained by One News this week showed you tried to have those police comments removed from the public record. So given gun laws are absolutely integral to police safety, why should police trust a former gun lobbyist who won't involve the police association and who tried to delete the official advice from police that she didn't like from the public record?
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things that I found about being a cabinet minister is learning the processes and how it all works. I presented a paper to cabinet and the police came in with their...
Could you imagine if a Labour MP made some kind of what on the outside appears like, I mean, almost corruption, let's just say it appears like that, and then they came back to the media and they said, oh, you know, I'm a minister, and as a minister I need to learn the system, and as I'm learning the system I found out how to do it. Can you imagine what Luxon and his mates would be saying about that person? What you this is not an on-the-job training kind of thing, mate. This is the highest positions in the land. This is not an on-the-training job. If you are not skilled to be there, if you don't know the system, you should not be there. And so just to let this kind of go and go, well, oh, you know, she made a mistake and she's learning. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's utterly, utterly ridiculous.
Fulsome advice, and they went against what I said. I asked the question, are they allowed to put that, this is my paper, are they allowed to put that in there? Does it have to be in there? And the response that I got back was, yes, they're allowed to put that in there, Minister, but you can also have your own say. You can talk back to what they say, and I've done that. So it's about learning the process. What I'm really grateful for is that New Zealand Police have actually been really robust in what they feed back to me. There's about 17 different groups and organisations, and New Zealand Police have been able to give me more feedback than all of them put together. And I value that because they represent every single person within the New Zealand Police.
What's wrong with the gun registry?
The firearms registry itself, I'm actually quite keen on, believe it or not. We've had a
Why did you
registry.
campaign?
Not. I go with not. What about you, Chewy? Believe it or not, I'm going with not.
Yeah, I wonder what little rat hole she's got in this argument.
Yeah, this is a good one. Watch for the shell game.
Against it last year.
Well, I campaigned against a full firearms registry. We've had a registry in place since the 1980s and the 1990s, and I've been a part of that. What I don't agree with is the full registration of firearms, because we've got so many people out there that are concerned about putting their details into a system that they don't trust the security.
So, okay, so you're worried about it becoming a steel to water kind of list or something like that, right?
It can be, yes.
So to be totally clear, though, ACT opposes a firearms registry for all guns, but ACT supports a firearms registry for restricted weapons.
Restricted weapons, pistols, collector items, as we've had over the...
So the kinds of firearms that gangs would be most attractive to, handguns and expensive weapons. So the kind of guns that the gangs would be most attractive to, they support a registry for those, but for everyone, no. So Farmer Bob out in Southland with a shotgun, no. You know, such and such person living in central Wellington who collects handguns, yes. And now she's trying to sell it is because they're scared of it being a steal to order if they go with everyone. This is the beautiful thing that Jack pulls out.
So her mentioning pistols, I can tell you for a fact is a bunch of bullshit. To be a pistol owner in New Zealand is some of the most restrictive firearms legislations we've got, and the fact that you have to be a member of a pistol club and your weapon stays there. Right. Or is handed to the police. You can't just keep it at home. So that's bullshit. But you know, she's missing out the fact that the vast majority of gang firearms offences are like what you mentioned. Farmer Brown's forgotten shotgun cut down. Farmer Brown's old 303 that has been cut down. You know, it's all firearms. And why would you want to complicate something like this? Like
100%. They do get onto that as well. They get onto you know, how gangs get these weapons. We'll keep going, eh? Is that right?
Yep.
For restricted weapons.
Restricted weapons, pistols, collector items, as we've had over the last 40 years.
Oh, hang on a second. So if you're so concerned about it being a steel to water list, why would you support having a registry for our most dangerous guns?
Because those most dangerous firearms that you talk about actually are under a higher security requirement. And that means...
You mean in houses?
In houses. They actually have a higher security
But the concern is with the registry. Yeah, I understand that. But the concern is with the registry.
Yes, yes.
So you just said that the registry can't be trusted, potentially can't be trusted because of security concerns, but you do support having a registry for our most dangerous guns.
I do support having a registry for our most dangerous firearms. I think that's really important. But I'll take a step back here with you as well.
But
we look at the A category.
But the concern is around the security of a registry. I mean, if the
that's one of the concerns, Jack. It's not the only concern.
That's a concern you just identified to me.
But it's one, and I can identify some others.
What are the others?
$350 million has already been spent on firearms control by the Labor government.
How much has been spent on the registry?
Over $200 million has been put aside for spending on the registry. How much has been
spent on the registry
put
so far?
aside.
I'm not aware of how much has been spent, but $208 million has been put aside.
It's public information. So it's cost $10 million to establish the firearms registry, and this is from the.
Sorry, over $350 million has been spent. Jack, $10 million has been spent. Here's the information.
Authority, we estimate it'll cost $8.5 million per annum to continue operating.
And
seems like good value for money, really.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is because it's not going to stop there.
But it's not $200 million.
I don't think it is because it doesn't work with my narrative. I don't think it's good value for money because it doesn't work with what I'm going to do.
Seems like good value for money, really.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is, because it's not going to stop the.
But it's not $200 million. Like
It's
you just claimed.
$350 million has been spent on arms control.
But this is
at
on the
moment.
registry. This is on the registry. Does that include the gun
Can
buyback?
I give you some stats?
No. I've just asked you for stats. You've just
Well, no,
said
you
that the
haven't
registry is
asked
going
me
to
for
cost $200 million.
You haven't asked me for stats.
It's
Let's have a look at
10.4 and 8.5
whether or
a year.
not a registry is going to work in New Zealand. And this is why we're having a review, because yes, you could ask me all these questions, but the point is have a
And
review.
then I might have to answer them. Come on, Jack, you could ask me all these questions, and then what am I supposed to do? Answer them? I mean, come on.
And this is why we're having a review, because yes, you could ask me all these questions, but the point is have a review. What's happened overseas? Canada said that they were going to spend $2 million. They spent $2 billion before they got rid of it.
But in New
When we
Zealand,
have
we've
a look
spent
at
$10 million.
When we have a
I
look
actually
at
checked
the
with police.
firearms,
No, because you care about stats. I checked with police. They said it came in under budget and on time, which is about the first time that's ever happened with a public project of this
there's
scale.
more to be done in that space, Jack. It's not over. They have
This is another thing that they're doing. They're basically saying this is not going to work, so we don't want to do anything. It's like it's if someone says to you that if this is not going to get the absolute best case scenario, this is going to be the gold standard the world has seen, then we should do nothing. This is the other argument that's starting to come out. If you don't get it to absolutely solve every single issue, then you should spend no money on it whatsoever, which is the argument that comes out next, Joey.
implemented a system, which is the start of a system. The system is not completed, it's not finished,
But you're
and
reviewing
it's
it
going
already.
to be more than $20 million.
Right.
Well, we've already got a registry system in place at the moment. We've had 6 breaches of data since 2019. And here's another good fact for you, actually, Jack. In the A category, or the sporting firearms that are now to be registered, police will tell us that 70% of firearms that they find seized are actually A category type firearms, and this is why we need a registry. But they will also say that 65% of the firearms that they find have no serial number on them. Now, if we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars to be spent,
This is so stupid. This is so stupid. But they had a serial number on them, and under a registry, that serial number will be lodged with Farmer Bob. And if they then find that, 2 years later, that gun's out and about and it's got no serial number on it, at the stage that they want to check in with Farmer Bob with where it had a serial number on it and he doesn't have it anymore, then there's questions to answer. So it's like, what does it matter that it now doesn't have any serial numbers on it? We know that Farmer Bob had it with a serial number on it, and if he no longer has it, then Farmer Bob's answerable to that if he hasn't declared or reported to the police it's been stolen. So this is actually a complete red herring she's putting out right now.
they find have no serial number on them. Now, if we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars to be spent, and it will be coming, it's not finished yet, on the registry, is it going to be
store buyers, right?
Is it going to be the ambulance at the bottom
So you
of
say
the
it's going to
hill?
cost us hundreds of millions of dollars. The official line is that it's cost us 10.4 and
To date.
8.5 a year.
To date.
So I mean, the whole point with the registry is it cuts down on straw buyers, so-called straw buyers or diversions of guns, right? So people who legally buy a firearm and then on-sell it. And the idea with the registry is that actually all of the details when you on-sell it will have to be recorded. That person will have to show their face. For example, what if police told you is the biggest contributor to gun crime? Is it straw buying or diverting, like I've just described, or is it something else?
Police have advised me that it's the straw buyers.
Right.
But what we've found is that when they
Right.
talked about the types of firearms that they've seized, it's only 6% of those firearms can be attributed to straw buying. So it leaves open what's happening with the other 94%.
What's
It's-
the 6% based on?
The 6% came from an OIA about how many how many firearms
roll.
have been
Is
diverted
that a set
from.
from 2015?
Rot roll, minister. If you don't know your numbers, come in to see Uncle Jack. Rot roll.
It's a stat that
So
I've been
three years
provided
ago,
with.
the police established the firearms investigation team to look at illegal gun supply. Detective Senior Sergeant Mike Beale, who was of the team, told the Herald this, quote, "There are lots of rumours around where gangs get their guns from, importing them in bulk by sea, manufacturing them, burglaries and so on. But the vast majority of what we're seeing so far is retail diversion. The criminal element doesn't need to look any further, importing, for example, because diversion is such a simple option. That's why we have the registry."
Well, we've had a registry for the dealers since the 1990s as well.
This is not about dealers. You
Well,
understand
no,
that.
you just
The
said it's
whole-
been diverted from the straw buyer. So
from someone who buys it legally, right? And then
which
without
is
a
usually
registry,
through the dealer.
and without a registry, what can that person do?
And you do realise
do they
that the
have to-
dealer registry is not up and running under this new regime. They're still using the old regime.
So it's not working well enough, so it's not working. This is exactly the same thing. It's not, but they're not doing that yet, so we might as well not do anything.
For the last 20 years.
You understand how straw buyers work? And actually, we've had
And it would be
plenty of
great when we
examples
can
recently.
digitalise that information, because I'm all for the dealer registry being digitalised, but it's not there yet, and the money hasn't been spent on that yet.
So investigations suggest that Matu Reid, who was the downtown Auckland shooter, he had a gun legally bought from a retailer, then diverted. Police looking into the Ponsonby Road shooting found 2 of those Alpha carbine cut-off guns in Lake Taupo. Constable Matthew Hunt was shot by someone using an AK-style semi-automatic weapon that had been legally purchased and then on-sold with the buyer's details not recorded. Can you give me a recent example of smuggled guns or different guns being used to murder police officers?
What I can tell you is that we have one X-ray machine for all of
This will be a no, Jack. This will be a no. She can't.
the ports in New Zealand, and we have about 148 containers coming in every single day. We are not able
That's not what
to,
I asked, though, is it?
but we're not able to look at what is actually coming into the country. So it's easy for people to say they're not coming in.
We're just taking it
checking.
from police who are falling victim to these crimes.
There you go. So yes, the lad does come with receipts once again, Chewy. It's and I don't know if you picked it up at the end when she talked about that 6%. They were talking over each other, but she said it was a stat I was given. Okay, so from where? A stat I was given. So there you go. Chewy, yours, sir.
This is what happens when we get a lobbyist into a lawmaking position. It's an absolute shit show. There is no consideration being given to how workable something is. There is no consideration being given to how it would improve things in this country. There is no consideration being given to something like the mosque shootings. The problem that she is trying to solve is the people that have paid her very well for many, many years are expecting a return on their investment.
Yep.
Now, she might say, hey, look, I was a lobbyist then. I'm not a lobbyist now. What? She suddenly deletes her contacts, changes her phone number, her email address, doesn't hang out with the old crew anymore. Get fucked. This is just corruption. For her to turn her back on these things that have been recommended since Whanau happened. Like, this is when there was a big review done in the 90s. Almost all of that was disregarded, minimized, and chipped away. And we thought, that's fine. How often does an Whanau happen?
Yeah.
How often does a Christchurch mosque shooting happen? You know, there are things like, as you quite rightly said, she will use a failing as a reason to completely wipe out doing anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people are concerned about a registry because there's been some privacy breaches around it. Yes, there have been. So maybe the police aren't the best people to keep track of the registry. Maybe there should be another organization. Maybe it should be digitized rather than, maybe there should be digital fingerprints for anybody that accesses it. We have solved privacy issues on large databases before. We have a huge database of things that are registered to people. You know, you register a car. Okay, we have less guns than we have cars. So let's make a smaller, more secure, more digitized database. The reason that she keeps referring to the fact that we had a registry process in hand, it was pen and paper. And it just got too hard to manage and everybody just kind of wandered away from it. So the money that she's so concerned about with spending is to bring that into this century. And I think when it comes to something of like, okay, we have these weapons that, yes, they can be tools, but they can also be weapons that can be misused for crime or terrorism or whatever. Is that worth keeping a bigger eye on? Do we have some of our large gun retailers here in New Zealand absolutely taking the piss? And I know that these guys are dancing around the name of the business, but Gun City just this month got pinged for one of their employees committing fraud that put those alpha carbines out into the communities. If you haven't seen one of these things, it's a 357 Magnum made to look like a rifle. It has a rifle's buttstock and it has a long barrel. 2 cuts with a fucking hacksaw, and you have a concealable pistol. And that's what these shootings in Auckland have all been. And the only place that's selling them is Gun City. Gun City is run by a guy that got charged for gun running. He's been charged for breaking the law, speeding. His son's a domestic violence offender. He is not a fit and proper person to have a gun license, let alone someone that retails these weapons. There is not a serious gun owner in this country that would look at that and go, that's a good tool for a task, that is a crime gun. Like right from the fucking get-go.
So
A half hour in your
they cut
shed.
just there, and they cut just there.
That is a take the piss gun. And this is exactly what I mean about the arms industry, knowing what they have to do to amend a gun to fall into a different category or to get around a new piece of legislation. So you need to make your rules to work with that. Like they've been doing this in America for decades. They are very, very good at it. You know, change out the upper receiver and you have an automatic weapon rather than a semi-automatic weapon.
So that's what it looks like cut down.
Yeah. So yes, McKee is not trying to solve this problem. There's a reason she's disregarding police, because police have a different set of problems that they are trying to solve. I acknowledge that there may be some concern in the gun community about the security of any register. And that question needs to be answered.
But that's fixed. That's fix the security, not do a register. I mean, we've got IRD numbers. That's online and it's secure. We've got bank account numbers. That's online and it's secure. You know, like get over yourself. If there's a problem if there's a concern around the security around the gun registry, then fix the gun registry security. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So if we want to fiddle around magazines and upper receivers and all of that sort of thing, that's a highway to an ass kicking. Like having a restriction on weapons that don't have removable magazines is not going to affect sports hunters, as an example. Because a shotgun.
Some chats that didn't come again. Thank you. Can we get Chippy motivated to kick corrupt asses? Thank you very much. Another one here from Campbell. Jack telling it how it is. Get in there, son. Thank you very much. There's a bunch of ones in there that we'll do at the end of the show. There's one here that's specific. Wooming sounds like Nicole was trained by the NRA. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much.
100.
Chris Kuma. No, we'll leave that one. I'm just having a look, see if there's any of that are pertinent to this. What we're talking about right now. Nope, the rest can wait till the end of the show or the end of the next thing. Right now, the other thing, just to let you know on Whanau is, and you know that if you've been with us for the show, that we were off last week and a bit crook and still a bit crook today. Is that if I do feel like during a show I'm done, then that'll be the night. We'll be done. So I'm not feeling that right now. But what we will do is go and do a truncated version of the Simeon Brown. We were going to talk about Simeon Brown and his rooftop solar conversation, which was ludicrous, and also the nice to haves. The Prime Minister made that ridiculous statement about local governments and councils nice to haves, and then Jack spends a good amount of time going through all these things that local government's paying for. And he keeps asking Simeon, are they nice to haves? Are they nice to haves? Are they nice to haves? And Simeon wouldn't answer it. You should ask local councils. Like, no, because your leader is the one talking about the supermarket shopping list of nice to haves. You're the one that have said that there's too many of them, and they wouldn't do it. Because, of course, it's a lot of local groups and stuff, and libraries and, art groups and stuff who are being supported by, excuse me.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. I love when we talk
if I cut out
Simeon Brown.
You just have to pick up because that's the way it's going to go. Okay, so what we'll do is
you're going to be gone for that long.
If I cut out, you need to pick up. So what we'll do a couple of clips here where he's talking really about rates increases and stuff, because we love the conversation around rates increases, not because we celebrate the rates increases, but because the previous government had somewhat of a solution for these increases in a little thing called Three Waters. These guys ran off the back of a racist, narrative through the country, means it got cancelled, and now everyone's getting rate increases and everyone's going, why? And it was all explained last year. You just chose not to see it. So here's the first conversation where they're talking about, in particular, rates increases.
What's interesting is that the average rates rises around the country about 15%, right? So it's not just one or two councils that are seeing these big increases. They're big increases, not universally, but very much across the board. We're seeing them all over.
And some councils have done a great job and others haven't. Like if you go up to Northland, the Far North District Council, they consulted on a 14% increase in their rates. They finalised on a 4.5%.
Yes, and how did they do that? How did they do that? They got a one-off $5 million dividend.
No, it wasn't one-off.
It is. It's a one-off $5 million dividend.
Well, it's about how they manage the rest.
Yeah, so they got a $5 million dividend that they're not going to be able to rely on for next year. So what do they do next year?
Well, ultimately, that's why we've got our our focus around local.
But I mean,
audit.
that's such a, you just use this as an example of a council managing its assets. That's a council that is in the unique position of being able to get what they described as a one-off dividend of $5 million for this year, and they won't be able to rely on for next year. My question is, if we...
So I want to expand on that a little bit. So Far North District Council have been given a dividend of a huge amount of money, right? They've used that this year to offset the rates. The rates increases are only going up 4% rather than 14% now. And Simeon Brown's going, but look, some councils are doing well, but the point that Jack's making, it's a one-off. So this dude is sitting there going, but some councils are very responsible, when really this council, for want of a better word, has won lotto this year, but it's not going to help them next year. And the example they're giving is, look at this council that's won lotto this year. Haven't they done well to bring their rates down from 14% increases to 4% increases? It's so disingenuous. It's such horseshit. It's such a it's not just the shell game. This is just absolute squirrel look away. That sounds good. 14-4.
It also trucks every council that isn't in that position, that doesn't have a dividend like that to rely on, in the corner of, you are a bad council who didn't manage your assets well.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep going.
We have seen, to your point, yes, some councils have lower rates than 15%, but across the board, the average is about 15%. So my question is, are all councils being irresponsible? If we are seeing that level of rates increases everywhere, not just at one or two councils.
I think the message from the Prime Minister was, when you're seeing rates increasing at more than 4 times the rate of inflation, there are serious questions that need to be answered, and we are going to intervene as a government to say, actually, those
they were answered last year, and there was explained how they wouldn't get there, and you guys fanned the flames of disinformation around what that meant, and now you're going, look at all the why are the rates going up? You can't have it both ways. You can't fan the flames to kill the conversation that explained how we keep rates rises down, and now go, why are rate rises up? You can't have it both ways, Simeon. I'm sorry, you just can't.
All well-beings, they will be removed, because we know that when they're not in legislation, rates do not increase as fast.
Yeah.
We're also going to be doing some benchmarking, and we'll look at rate capping in terms of those non-core activities. So, all of those examples you provided earlier, well, actually, we're going to be requiring them to find efficiencies through actually saying those non-core areas, there's going to be a cap on how much you can do. That's exactly what they do in New South Wales.
Right.
And that's what we're going to do here.
So what they're saying is, from central government, we are now going to mandate that you can only spend this much in council. Remember how the same thing as last government, the centralizing of decision making, how that was all bad, and now they're going to. He's literally sitting there saying, we will tell you, councils, how much of that money you're allowed to spend on these issues from central government. That's where he's going, and I think Jack points it out now.
So we could see some of those centres, essentially, once you've capped it, not supported. Some of those.
A rate cap means
theatre, the arts centre.
The rate cap means that they won't be able to increase their rates on beyond what is set for those non-tour activities.
So that was the example Jack was giving, was those list of nice to haves that we talked about before. Now, this has been observed a lot in this government. We've just seen it there again, that they ran on not centralising various things like Three Waters and not allowing central government to take over, whilst now with central government they are taking over. Something else that we've acknowledged them doing, Chewy, a lot, is they keep saying things like, cutbacks when in the public service, that'll be down to the chief executives. That'll be down to the chief. It's up to the chief executives. When the chief executives then do something they don't like, they then step in. You can't have it both ways, and they do it again now. And Jack points that exact point, not with government department cuts, but in general, this is an example of them doing it again, exactly the same thing. As they'll step in when it doesn't suit their narrative, and other than that, if things aren't going well, they step back and they go, nothing to do with us. And he's looking at councils for this. Hypocrisy about council control is the title of this clip.
So councils know what is needed for their communities and should not be forced or mandated to take a one-size-fits-all approach. That was you in the House in February.
That's too good. We need to hear that again. Exactly what he said there. Just listen. This is what Simeon said. Have a listen.
Fenced or something like that. So councils know what is needed for their communities and should not be forced or mandated to take a one-size-fits-all approach. That was you.
Councils know they should not be forced. Simeon Brown. That's what he said.
In the House in February. So do you support giving Auckland Council full control over Auckland Transport?
Well, we've agreed with Mayor Wayne Brown that we need far more democratic accountability over Auckland Transport, and we're working through some options on how to deliver that.
But not full control, right? And so you go through it. Auckland Council wanted the regional fuel tax. That localism you didn't like. so you scrapped it. Māori wards were established by councils around the country. Voters who disagreed have the power to vote out those councils. But again, you didn't like that localism.
That is localism, because that's local communities deciding on their local.
But they could.
No, it's not. It's you deciding what local governments have to do. Yeah. It's you telling them. It's you dictating to them what is best that they have to do.
You didn't like that localism?
That is localism, because that's local communities deciding on their local.
But they could have done it anyway, right? Councils have decided on this, and they could have voted out those councils.
No, those councils were not required to go to the public.
Yeah.
We're just putting in Helen Clark's law from 2001.
So if you don't, that's all we're doing. So if you don't like, we're
just bringing back Helen Clark's law. Jack.
The point is that councils that are democratically elected have voted to introduce these mechanisms or these wards. And if people didn't like it, they could have voted out those councils.
This is a more pure form of localism. We're actually letting local voters make the decision.
Okay.
In that case,
we can scrap.
So you want to carve them off now? Okay, we'll put that one aside, shall we?
We'll put that one aside, and I'll give you three others instead. So Auckland Council wanted the regional fuel tax. You didn't like that kind of
we went to the public. The public voted for us. We said to remove it. We did.
Even for something as simple as congestion charging, right? Councils can only do it if you give them permission.
Well, ultimately, we need to pass the law. I mean, councils cannot do that without a law change. We've brought a law change to Parliament.
But if you believe in localism, you believe that councils know what's best for their communities. How come you keep on dictating what they can and can't do?
I think there's a good point to be made here in terms of congestion charging, or time of use charging, as we're calling it. And that is.
And this is now where he doesn't answer the question at all, and he starts talking about the congestion charges, and that's all he does now.
Benefits. The government owns and runs the state highways. Council is responsible for local roads, and so actually it's a partnership. That's what's required to ensure that it works for the network.
And even though you haven't heard it at all, I think in the next 60 seconds he says the word potholes 3 times, Joe.
Rather than it simply just being one part of whether it's council or government.
You say that localism is really important. The local communities know what's best for them. Local councils should have the authority to do that. But every time they try to do something, you say, no, we don't like that.
No, what we said, actually, councils, if you're putting in a time of use scheme in Auckland, you've got people use the state highways, or they use local roads. And actually, we need to have a partnership approach to that. Look, and that's the approach we're taking to that. Legislation's got to go through Parliament.
So anyway, we'll just leave it there. It keeps on going on. It goes back. So he doesn't answer. Well done, Jack Tame. And that is the videos for tonight. Do you want to pick up on any of that, Troy, before we get to super chats and get the heck out of Dodge?
Oh, Simeon Brown.
Little Simeon.
Little wee Simeon. Yeah, I love how his little face lit up when he's like, oh, I can mention Helen Clark. I'm going to mention Helen Clark 3 times in 5 minutes with a big fucking grin on my face. Don't worry, us lefties also acknowledge that as much as we liked Auntie Helen in the mid-2000s was not a great person. And if we're talking about that around Māori wards, that's not the win you think it is, Simeon.
Yeah.
That is not the win you think it is.
Yeah, very cool. All right, team. Thank you for being with us tonight. We've got a whole bunch of chats we want to get to before we head off for the night, and then just remind you of a couple of things. Tawhiri, welcome back. I will never fade away on you, Pat and Chu Fu. That sounds like a Shea Fu song. Shoot,
I think that is the reference.
Fade away.
There we go. You got it.
There we go. Do you need a beard to join the crew? Do you know what?
Legally, we have to say no.
Well, not to be all DEI and that stuff as well. Some different perspectives would be incredibly welcomed into the team. Some perspectives that doesn't mean anyone's eliminated from the conversation, but some different perspectives that aren't a couple of middle-aged honkies from Dunedin would be incredibly welcomed into the community. Like I said, I'll be very clear. It doesn't eliminate anyone, but it would be something that would be lovely. Ryjan, I missed you, boys. Also, thoughts on DNC. Love the DNC. Was amazing. One of the best things was I think I saw Jon Stewart do a live show afterwards, and at one stage, whoever the new Tucker Carlson is on Fox News, I forget his name, Jesse, whatever his face is, was talking about how all this thing, they're talking about joy. There's no joy going on at all. It's all bullshit. And then the screen beside him, there was all these people dancing, and there was a DJ mixing at the time. He was going, there's nothing going on. It's all a big have. Lurchify, you're on the right track. The brand and brand values are developed. It now needs to grow the channels and gain even bigger reach. You're dead set. Legends. Thanks, Lurchify. I think. Mr. Arvid, can we get a let's? No, I can't do that because I'll get sued. There's a copyright on that. Let's get ready to rumble from Pat.
Let's get ready to ruckus.
You can change over and take over now while I have a little cough.
Okay. Mr. Arvids with $5 super chat. The ALL, Arterial Liberation League, are good at this kind of thing. Maybe they could jump on board. Yes, we're very fond of their content, so maybe that is something we could look at. Cameron with $2 super chat. 9.86 subs, almost top of the pops. London in the thousands. Almost the population of London in the thousands. Sorry, I misread that.
Oh, good.
Stuart Hislop, did you see Chris Como's at DNC? Also worth watching. Yeah, there's so much at the DNC.
Yeah,
it was so fascinating. Look, my favorite flex about that was what was it? They had the arena that they were in was at capacity. So they hired another arena to simulcast to and filled that to capacity. And that arena was where the Republican National Convention was, or one of Trump's rallies or something like that. And that wasn't at capacity at that point. Campbell with a very generous super chat. They're very late, plus multiple absence fees. Kia ora koutou whānau. Kooky Nick, $10 super chat. Tipple, this is the owner of Gun City, by the way. Tipple is the guy that makes all gun owners look bad. Also late fee. And Mr. Arvid there. See, Simeon is now taking photo ops too. I'm in me mum's car, vroom vroom, taking after his leader. This is hilarious. Have you seen this, Pat?
Tell me.
There has been a consistent internet rumor that Simeon Brown doesn't have a license.
Oh, really?
And so he staged a photo op to show him driving, which of course does not show that he has a license. It just shows he's able to drive, which doesn't put that rumor to bed. I'm not encouraging that rumor. I'm just saying it's funny. And
I don't ever want to hear you say again anything about going to bed when you mention Simeon Brown. Just putting it out there.
Brendan Christie here, not a super chat, but I thought it was a really good comment. Inflation has simply exacerbated decades of underfunding for our local councils. We've been chronically underspending in our infrastructure, and now we're paying for it. Exactly. Decades of kicking the can down the line because all of our local body politicians are scared of the ratepayers groups.
Yeah.
Because they think that those guys have too much power. I know here in Dunedin that there is now an alternative ratepayers group that is pro spending for these things. And I can't wait for the next election to pop up where they will throw their weight around like these. No, we don't want you to spend on anything about from fixing potholes and picking up our rubbish. And to see what effect that has on our election here in Dunedin.
I'm not going to play the audio for this because it'll get us kicked off, but here is that clip. You see, well, this is Jesse, what's his face, saying last night wasn't as jubilant as the media tells you. And as he's being a naysayer, look what's happening in the shot. Like right beside him, seat empty. It looked like there was a formal dress code. The lines to get into the stadium were long and silent, a literal party happening next to him. The only joy in the building was Joy Reid, who nobody even recognizes. Then the DJ comes up. And this is on, like, not literally dancing going on. So
last night felt like it was a funeral, and then there's the DJ pumping everybody up. Yeah, just ridiculous.
Let me say one other thing as well about the time we've had off, because we've had a note about it from one of our generous benefactors. I do not have the total yet for Rainbow Storytime. I will do those numbers tomorrow. But I'm fairly confident looking at the number. Oh, and look at hoodies. Because I had COVID, I couldn't go to the post shop. So all the hoodies are packed and sitting upstairs, and I'll probably take them tomorrow, even though everyone in this post shop will think I've still got COVID because I'm coughing and hacking, but I'll get them. I'll do my best to get them out tomorrow. So I forgive me, and I'm sorry that they're taking longer to get out. My 18-year-old was at their mother's, unfortunately, so I had to pack them all myself. I got them all wrong. So they will be in the post as soon as I can get them in the post. And the amount that we raise for Rainbow Storytime, I haven't worked out yet, but I'm confident with the combined between us and the person who's going to match the donation is going to be in the vicinity of $500 to $1,000 to give to Rainbow Storytime, which is freaking cool. Thanks to you guys. And thanks to Rainbow Storytime, because they pushed us out there as well. And I know a lot of their people actually just got the product as well. All right. Very quickly to wrap up the show, reminder, we are going to start something new here in BHN. We are we're throwing out the idea to possibly do a Friday night show. We're giving you the opportunity, if you want to be involved, if you think you're someone who could host a show, who could be a part of a show. If you and a mate already do something, maybe you're starting up a podcast and you're liking doing your own podcast on the side and you want to come and do something here as well. We're looking for people to come on board and show expressions of interest for that. bighearingnews@gmail.com is the best way to do that. I'll put together something tomorrow that's a bit more official. That's like, skills in editing, skills in Photoshop would be useful, but not a absolute requirement. And then you'll be able to send stuff back to us to fill out why you think you'd be good to do it. We can possibly even do some little, some tests ones as well. Like if you and a mate want to do it, you can jump on Zoom and do it yourselves. Do a little conversation about an issue and then send it to us or something. With lots of ways we can go. It's not going to be a fast process. There's not going to be one this Friday, but this is the next evolution of the show. And remember, if there's any journalists out there, press writers, people who write press releases and stuff, we're looking for someone to come and help us do some hard copy as well, especially when we have big interviews. Right, Shu, I think that's it to me. Do you want to do one other thing before we go?
I'm going to leave everybody with one thing. We haven't spoken about Ukraine for a little while. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff happening over there. With them making a sneaky wee push into Russia. I'm going to predict this victory. Russia could literally fall at any moment. It's a house of cards. But the true harbinger of what Ukraine has brought to that conflict is that they have deployed their secret weapon. In the last week, something that we haven't really seen before in the news. They have deployed the cat girls. So yeah, I'm going to call it Ukraine total victory 2024.
It's a big looking gun. Can they get that gun at Gun City?
No.
Okay.
You have to go to Ukraine for that one.
Good to know. Well, let's not do that either. Good to know though.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us aren't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a heart in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by both Chewy and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
All right, team. That's us for tonight. Thanks for coming back and joining us tonight. Good to see we know people still want to come and hang out. It's nice. Thought there'd be no one here tonight, Joey. So lovely to see you all. Looking forward to see you all again from tomorrow night onwards. And that's it for me. Joey, anything from you?
Nothing new from me. I'm no more tangents. Pat needs to go to bed now. Let's suck on a nice lolly.